Hey, it's Mark Seacat and I'm here in my office and I'm just working on fletching some arrows, getting ready for the upcoming archery season. So I've got a few different arrows that I'm going to go through and talk about, but I'm going to show you how I fletch, and I use a Bitzenberger jig over here, and I'm just finishing up one right here that's pretty dialed in. As you can see, I go through and I number each arrow so I can see exactly how it's flying. And I go ahead and I put a broadhead on when I start, just so I can try to line up my fletchings, make it nice and dialed in here. So I'll go ahead and start fletching another one. As you can see over here, I've got them all numbered. Everything is dialed in. So I'll just go ahead and set this one over here and let it go ahead and dry right there. So here I'm just throwing the broadhead on and seeing where it's going to line up with my nock and see if it's close, and might just flip the nock a little bit here. And then one of the things I do right away is I take this arrow shaft cleaner from Arizona Archery Enterprises, and I just put some on this little scrubber right here, and I just go through and I just kind of clean that shaft. I do this with both new and used arrows. These arrows that I'm fletching right now, I've been practicing with, and I've pretty much knocked fletchings off of them shooting broadhead. So I go through and I just kind of do that. Just give it a little bit of a brush, and then I go ahead and I take and wipe all that extra off, because some of that carbon is going to come with that, and I just try to clean it off a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and drop this in to my jig, and then I'll take my numbered fletching and I pre-write the numbers on, just so it's nice and easy and legible, and then I'll align that the same as I have on all the other ones here at this spot right here on the jig. And then one thing that I do, I use fletch extreme vanes, the 360s, so they're a little bit longer and they're really quiet and they're very accurate, and it's a very stiff fletching that's got it's got a lot of give to it, so it's a really good fletching. I've had great luck with these, and this is what I've actually used the entire time since I started archery hunting. One thing here that you want to do with these guys is you want to take some rubbing alcohol and you want to clean them off before you put any glue on them. So I just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol right on there, and then I go through and I just clean that fletching off, make sure it's really clean, and then I go through and I wipe any excess of that off so it's nice and clean and nice and dry. Close the cap. And then I use Flex Bond adhesive from Flex Fletch. That's what they recommend for their fletchings. And so I'll go through and get a nice little bead, and then I'll go through this guy and I'll just put a nice consistent bead right down the entire fletching. You don't want to do too much, and I kind of treat this like tying flies for fly fishing. I take it and I go really slow, and each arrow probably takes me, I would say each arrow takes me half an hour, because I let it dry and let it set each fletching for about, I would say 8 to 10 minutes. And then just so it's completely set before I put on the next one. This next step here, because you've got quite a bit of a bead of Flex Bond on here, I take it and I'll take my finger and I'll just kind of run my finger along the side of the fletching backwards, get a little bit of excess, wipe it off, and then I'll move it towards the front as well, just to take any excess off and make sure that it's completely covered on that fletching. Then it's ready to go, and my next step is to go ahead and put it on here and put it right on the jig, back the jig back to this piece right here so that they're all the same. Make sure my arrow is all the way set down in the jig, and then take it and just uniformly rotate it on right there and give it a nice little push so it sets down nice and tight, and let it sit there. I'll let it sit there now for 8 to 10 minutes. Just let it get dialed and dry before I rotate to the next one. So, and this is the arrow setup right here. Easton ACCs 340 that I'm shooting. I've got a 30.5 inch draw, and these are going out on the bow I'm shooting's at 74 pounds. And this is the arrow that I'm going to be hunting elk with this year. Dialed in, I'll have a 100 grain G5 striker on there, and this is the arrow that I found that works great for the elk hunting that I do. And then for the rest of the year, I've got other arrows that I still need to fletch. Here I've got some Easton Full Metal jackets, a little bit heavier, that I'll shoot 140 grain arrow for bison in December. And then I've got the same 340s, Easton Nanos, the infused carbons, also 340s, a little bit slimmer diameter, and these are the arrows that I'll end up shooting out of my whitetail setup for whitetails this fall. So it's kind of complicated. It takes me a long time to do it, but I enjoy building each one of these arrows custom, and yeah, it's awesome stuff. So I still have 3 dozen arrows to do before I'm ready for the season, but it should be a fun process. Thanks for joining us.